Hello everyone and welcome back to PEX Live Digital Process Automation and Low Code Automation. We're joined today here with the Commodore team and the Commodore team have got a guest speaker here. It's Claudio, who's going to be delivering a presentation on how Ofimundo has used the Commodore solution to digitally transform the business. All right, Dimitra and George here will kick off with the introductions before Claudio joins us. Without further ado, over to you.
Great, thank you, Jennifer. Hi, it's great for us being here today. We're very excited to be talking about low code and the new hypes in process automation. Thank you all for joining today. So allow me to introduce to today's speakers from our side. George Fylaktopoulos, Commodore CDO. Claudio Salvador, which will be joining shortly, from Ofimundo, our esteemed client from Chile, that will take us through the Commodore implementation in their sales cycle processes and the benefits Ofimundo has seen through that, and myself, Dimitra, Fotopoulou, from the business development team here in Commodore. So today we will cover together the no-code, low-code movement and how it affects the traditional development lifecycle. We'll also talk about the integration of low-code with advanced automation technologies like RPA and AI/ML. And we'll also go through some success stories to see how all the above are actually translated into real business life. And of course, by the end of this session, we'll also have the time to answer to any questions that you might have and get the conversation going. So let's start. George, if you please.
Thank you, Dimitra. Thank you, everyone, for joining our low-code webinar. I'm George Fylaktopoulos, CTO of Commodore, and we will be starting our presentation by describing what is the no-code, low-code movement, what are the challenges that it's trying to address, and finally, what are the benefits for organizations. So, the previous years, enterprise software had to be created by software developers highly skilled in different sets of back-end and front-end programming languages. In contrast, a no-code, low-code platform nowadays gives the ability to create rich web or mobile applications with a graphical user interface, usually dragging and dropping different components and connecting them on your screen instead of coding them line by line. Now, to understand this change in software development, we should keep in mind that all organizations are trying to achieve digital transformation and automation. And with this need, they faced multiple challenges using traditional development. Their biggest challenge is that they either need to adapt their business processes to existing software or customize the software. And this customization is often very time-consuming, very expensive, but also it cannot manage the changing nature of the processes, making updates a really difficult operation. The final result is difficult to be maintained, it leads to poor quality and general, a very bad customer experience. But apart from the organizational challenges, there are other players which drive this change even faster. There are software development companies who want to be a part of this change because they want, of course, to implement solutions faster. They want their solutions to be reusable and robust. And finally, they want to reduce their technical debt. On the other hand, we have enterprise employees who start to demand other ways of approaching their business needs, as Excel sheets and emails seem to not fit anymore. We shouldn't forget that millennials and Generation Z are starting to be the majority of the workforce, and these people are keen on mobile apps, they are keen on cloud technologies, and they certainly have the skill set to become low-code and no-code developers. Using them, organizations can fill their development requirements with less resources and achieve. Now, as the low-code platforms evolve, new technologies like machine learning, artificial intelligence, or chatbots are embedded, creating better customer experience and finally giving value to the organization itself. I'm sure that most of you have some experience on using low-code platforms, so we'll try to summarize the most common features. First of all, the ability to create the model of your data and your user interface using a graphical interface by creating data fields or custom forms or portals, web tables, etc. Then the ability to control the flow of your data, the flow of your actions using a business rule engine, a component library which contains pre-built elements like manual tasks, sub-processes, notifications, Of course, ready-made integrations with other legacy applications, the ability to manage the whole life cycle of an application, like design, test, implementation, deployment. And there are some low-code platforms which offer a marketplace where you can find and download low-code applications created by other developers. Since low-code has been around at least for 5 years, we have seen the benefits in reality. Application development is proven to be faster with low-code platform, because traditional coding is slower, but also because low-code developers are part of the organizations and they know the exact needs of the business requirements, so they don't need to translate this in technical language. This was essential and time-consuming in the past, and that's what app democratization is all about. It's about giving the ability to business people to create their own applications, reducing on one hand the cost of development, but also being more productive themselves. The end solutions can easily be adapted to the changing businesses, business processes, and offer a better customer experience as a whole. Now, this change in coding is depicted in the following chart. This is a survey performed by Gartner, which shows how enterprises are willing to cover their software needs today and tomorrow. We can see that only 17% of them are willing to use out-of-the-box applications, mostly because out-of-the-box applications cannot fully cover the requirements. We can also see a shift from fully custom code to low-code development, and we expect this shift to grow even more in the following years. Of course, there are various low-code platforms at the moment in the market. Here we will try to figure out the differences between them by categorizing them in 5 different criteria. First of all, based on the development methodology, there are platforms where low-code developers start from building their data, or start from designing their processes, or start from user interactions. There are also different platforms depending on the target group of developers. Some platforms are usually no-code platforms designed for people with no experience in development at all. Low-code automation platforms are designed for business users who have some experience in processes and how automation works. And application development platforms are dedicated to usually with those who can build any kind of software application. Debating on coding capabilities are the needs for easy integration and automation. We have platforms which offer a business logic language where business developers can use conditions to control the flow of data, which are usually high-level, easy-to-use language designed for business users. Some platforms offer access to third-generation languages like Java, .NET, designed for software developers and complex solutions. Now, based on user interaction, until now, we had low-code platforms that let you create web applications, mobile applications, sometimes both. But now we see new touch points emerging, like the ability to create chatbots to interact with your users, or the ability to have augmented reality, for example, in your applications, creating a multi-experience environment. Finally, we can categorize the low-code platforms based on their ability to orchestrate the full life cycle of an application from design to build, test, deliver, and maintain. It is very important for any business to select carefully the type of low-code platform based on the specific needs. If you have, for example, a small business, you could easily go with a no-code platform to perform most of your automation. If you are a medium or large-sized business, you should get a platform which has the full potential, as the requirements usually grow with the size of your company. To summarize this part of our presentation, we should keep in mind that software development has always been a process of solving customer problems. Many software development principles have been created through the years with one major target: to break down problems and provide as simple solutions as possible so that the final product can easily be maintained. Our responsibility as software engineers and as software development companies is not just to create platforms that can solve all problems and automate everything. Our target should be first to understand the problems and offer different solutions, different tools, depending on specific cases. And we believe that low-code embraces those principles. Now, after reviewing R, let's see how Comidor, our platform, tries to combine low-code, BPM, RPA, and emerging technologies like machine learning and artificial intelligence to provide a holistic approach in digital transformation. The whole idea behind Comidor is that each business needs 4 tools to succeed in automating its processes. First of all, it needs an enterprise low-code platform which has all the features described previously, and gives the ability to non-developers to build applications faster, reducing the human errors at the same time. The second tool is a business process designer, a workflow automation tool, which lets users design their processes. And here it should be clear that this is not just a designer tool. This is the actual design is used on runtime to create tasks, to create sub-processes, control the whole data flow. The third tool is a set of Rpa elements embedded in the workflow library. And using those components, user can connect with other systems. They can perform batch automated activities. They can create documents or other non-manual tasks. And they can even support decision-making in later stages of the workflow. The important thing here is that the process designer and their functionalities are connected with the local development, like that end users can manage their application as a whole. This means that they can create a simple application without any workflow for data tracking, for example, but they can create complex process applications that have multiple stages and they are connected with specific workflows. And in those workflows, they can even embed any number of RPA bots to automate all steps that do not require a human intervention. The last set of tools are related to process intelligence. The ultimate target for a business is to transform its processes and be able to measure the effectiveness, to measure the productivity, and finally to optimize them. Using real-time data from all low-code applications and running processes, Commodore can produce valuable reports to help in that direction. Now, we will try to briefly explain how each tool works. First of all, we have the enterprise low-code development environment. So creating an application is a step process in Commodore. In each step, developers are guided to perform very specific actions. In the first step, they have to provide some metadata about their application, for example, a small description, if it's related to a process, which users will have access to it, etc. In the second step, they have the ability to create their data model, identifying database fields, creating lists, connecting data entities with each other. Then they can design their web table, their web page basically, selecting which fields will be available, which categorization, which filters, which ordering, and generally create their basic user interface. And of course, later they can design their forms using drag and drop functionality, choosing layout, adding custom colors, fonts, embedding custom HTML. And these are all the basic steps. Simple applications, these are enough. But for more complex applications, as we said, developers are able to connect their application with a workflow. They're able to design custom tabs, maybe to fetch children data inside their entities. They can create widgets, small graphs embedded in their application. They can write custom code written in Commodore scripting language, which is of course required by complex scenarios. Now let's go to the second tool, which is the process designer. Here, local developers can describe which users or groups participate in a process, which task each one performs, how the data that each one provides pass from one team to another, applications are required, which decisions should be made, by whom, what conditions should be met to follow one part or the other. And the final design is a very clear representation of the manual process that the business is using. Just by seeing that, sometimes people can identify possible problems. From our experience, we see that 30% of the process issues are identified just by putting the process in a screen like that. But the screen is much more than a simple design, as we said, because when the low-code application is published, the Bpmn engine will use that specific design to create all necessary elements, check the business rules in the background, and perform all actions to orchestrate the process execution. Here we can see a set of RPA machine learning and artificial intelligence components that we have added the last two versions of Commodore. There are tools like file reader and writer, used especially for data management, data quality processes, data residing in structured files, either uploaded to the system or existing in a shared network drive. Creation bots, so the system can automate the creation of a Word, an Excel, or a PDF document-based templates that the developer has provided. This is a very powerful feature for, let's say, HR or financial teams, for example, as they consume a lot of time on document creation. We have the ability to analyze PDF documents and extract text or tables. Again, a powerful feature for cases where we have structured data in PDF files and users have to manually read them and pass information into an ERP or a CRM system. We have machine learning capabilities where developers can create their own machine learning models, so the system can learn from historical runs of a process and make decisions, or maybe suggest different paths to end users. There are text classification capabilities. You could use them, for example, for automatic email classification based on historical data. We have web scraping bots that can access websites and retrieve information based on rules. Image classification and image recognition, which lets developers identify or classify elements inside PDF documents. Artificial intelligence bots that perform sentiment analysis on text that has been added as parameters in a workflow. General RPA bots that are installed on local machines and facilitate exchange of information between cloud Commodore and local legacy systems. Excel processors, which are used in cases where data is stored in huge Excel files and developers have to parse them, find data, make some operations, save them back. So you see that we try to empower our palette of components in each release, trying to keep up to date with all latest technologies and offer them as a tool to low-code developers in order to give them a vision on how they could use those in their own processes. The final step of low-code development, as we said, is the ability to track. The workflow analytics module provides us information, marking as red blocks that are proven to be delayed in previous processes, calculating time and cost that has been lost in those elements, identifying teams or users that are connecting with those delays, maybe because they were busy with other tasks, or maybe because they need training on how to perform their actions better. The team can decide to make changes on the application. Of course, using a versioning mechanism so that all processes are not affected by any change. Last but not least, Commodore offers the ability to create powerful graphs on its application or combine data from different processes, display them in custom dashboards to different users, to different teams or roles, so that users have the accessibility of the information they want real time when they need it. That's all from me. Thank you very much. Dimitra.
Thank you, George. In this part, we will cover together some of our low-code and automation success stories to see how we have helped our customers build tailor-made, impactful solutions that meet their needs, but mostly create value for their businesses. So let's take a look at the examples that follow. Starting with the Mckesson case study, Mckesson is one of the leading and largest companies in the healthcare and pharma industries, with presence in more than 60 countries across the globe. So now imagine the number of pharmacies that Mckesson does business with, and going a bit further, imagine the volume of data that needs to be handled. We talk about very large numbers here. So only in one process, in particular the contact details verification process, Mckesson employees had to go over lists of files and websites to search, gather, verify, and keep updated the pharmacy's contact details, including names, addresses, phone numbers, and anything else related. They had to compare the details they had in their database and the details stored in a central repository, public online. So in case of any changes, the contact details should be updated in their system accordingly. So imagine cross-checking data in files over files and do it all manually, okay? So what we had here was basically an end-to-end manual process, with the human error risk being pretty high, since the tasks included complicated and complex manual checks, as we already mentioned. So this resulted, we could say, in a time-consuming process, and also difficulties in properly maintaining database information. So Mckesson aimed at automating the respective process because they wanted their employees to complete the process faster, while also ensuring high data accuracy. So the solution that, let me change this, okay. The solution that came along with Commodore was an RPA-enabled workflow that led to end-to-end automation of the process. Now, the only thing done by the user is the upload of 2 Excel files. So one containing the Rpa information that Mckesson maintains, and the other one the latest contact information, as this is stored in the public central pharmacy hub online. Now let's see how these 2 files are used and how we end up with the actual verification that is needed. Starting with the Excel processor element, once the 2 Excel files are uploaded, this component compares the entries in the files one by one. If a contact is not found, then the web scrapper comes in and searches for the missing information online in a list of websites. Once the necessary contacts are found, they're fetched back to Commodore so that we have the most updated contact details on our site. Finally, the document creator component automatically generates 3 documents. Initially uploaded Excel files, another one for the contacts that do not match between the files, and the last one for contacts that were not found at all. This way, we have all information documented, error-free, of course, and in a timely manner. So through Commodore, Mckesson was able to start working through an end-to-end automated process where human interventions were minimized, as we saw, something that led to 60% saving in their time. So they basically managed to work with less errors, less effort, and of course, higher productivity. So the hard-to-keep-up process initially is now easily tracked, while at the same time provides higher data accuracy based on their feedback. Moving forward to the second case, this is about incorporating low-code development in tax accounting. So according to new accounting requirements and regulations set by the Independent Authority of Public Revenues and the Greek Ministry of Finance, businesses of any type must regularly submit electronically all financial transactions to the respective authorities. The process aims at complete transparency and in an effort to restore trust between, and it is executed via a new electronic platform of the Ministry of Finance. What is requested in this case is that businesses find an effective way to execute all necessary steps of the process, while also achieving secure data transmission and compliance with existing regulations. Now let's see the one side of the coin here. In order for a business to reach that point without automation, this means that its employees would have to deal with a manual and complicated administrative process where they would need to manually register all financial data to the ministry's platform. Now, picture with me a scenario where a company issues more than 1,000, let's say, invoices, which would need to manually register to the ministry's platform. Very demanding and intimidating, if I could say. So a process that is both resource and time-consuming, error-prone for sure, and also a process that lacks transparency and transaction tracking. To fully automate the process, My Data was created, a low-code application that was built in 10 days. Let's break down the way that My Data functions to get a clear overview. So through remote SSL database connections, My Data communicates with clients' local ERP or on-premise enterprise solutions where it actually identifies and retrieves financial data. The data, let's call it raw files, are stored in My Data, and then the data is analyzed and transformed according to the ministry's formatting requirements. For example, the ministry might require turnovers or sums of VATs excluded from net totals, any kind of formatting the data that should receive. This is why I referred to raw files before. The idea is not just simply transmitting files, it's extracting the necessary data. So the entire data analysis is done with flow code similarly to the connection with the ministry. So the major advantage we have here is that if formatting rules, for example, change due to new regulations, low code allows for easier and faster adjustment of the solution in comparison to a hard-coded application. So going back to the process now, once the analysis is completed, the financial data is securely transmitted to the ministry's platform while using the communication protocols and standards that the ministry applies. Data synchronization is there between the two different systems, and real-time information is ensured because the data is transmitted on a minute basis. So all in all, my data, we can see that is an enterprise-grade low-code application. It communicates, as we saw, with different third-party systems, extracts, analyzes, and transmits data securely based on standards and specific protocols. It is an application linked to scalability, so it's the essence of low-code, as it could serve from, 100 or 500 customers to just, you name the number, it can do it. At the same time, my data provides reporting and auditing capabilities to users so that they can track their transactions and fully control their data and act accordingly if higher accuracy is required. So it's an application that it eliminates human interventions, as we saw, and possible errors that could come along. It provides a 360 overview and transparency picture through easy-to-monitor dashboards, diagrams, and charts. So we have one point of reference, both for the automatic execution of the process, but also for full control over the data. So in less time and, of course, with more confidence. At this point, we've reached the third case. So I would like to ask Claudio to take us over Ofimundo's sales cycle and the results achieved after implementing Commodore. So Claudio, if you please.
Excellent. Thank you, George and Dimitra. And thank you all for attending today's session. I am Claudio Salvador, the Chief Digital Transformation and Automation Officer at Ofimundo, and I'm going to share with you our fantastic experience with Commidore's team and Commidore's technology. Let me tell you a little bit about our business. We have over 35 years in the Chilean market. Our business goes from managed printing services to intelligent information management and automation solutions. Our main need was to fully automate the consulting sales process in which several departments need to collaborate and multiple systems need to properly communicate. Up until now, we had no process orchestration, and instead, there was an extensive use of Excel spreadsheets with complex formulas that were exchanged through emails and other communication channels. Therefore, communication errors and waste of time were some of the basic pain points we were trying to resolve, along with manual tasks such as data entry in multiple systems and many documents traveling through the whole organizations from user to user. So what were our business challenges? Where we wanted to resolve? We're showing only three, but there's more of this. First of all, we were looking for an end-to-end automation for the consulting sales process. We were looking to enhance collaboration across various departments and across the board, I would say. And we were looking to improve communication between information systems. So aside of the challenges, we had some business problems to resolve. For instance, we were lacking of process orchestration to invocate, processes and people at the right time with the right data. We were using extensive and large Excel spreadsheets with complex formulas and macros. As you might know, this approach creates many challenges related to data quality, bottlenecks, risk, and much more. So we were also having communication errors, but not having a clear governance and visibility of the processes. So in which step of a process we were at a given time. That, of course, created many communication problems, errors, and frustration within our team. We were also wasting a lot of time and effort to get things done. As I've been describing, many of our problems ended up on a large amount of wasted time and frustration within our team, plus a large amount of hidden costs affecting our performance overall. So how did Commodore resolve this? I'd like to start by saying that originally our consulting sales process included 11 sub-processes or workflow. To start with, Commidore's solution was to build a low-code application that allowed us to merge those 11 sub-processes into 5 sub-processes that are now fully orchestrated and automated. From that point on, you can get a grasp of the benefits we were receiving from day one. So what are the main components of our solution? First of all, we are using intelligent Rpa components for document generation. This solution helps us to create different documents during the process, such as technical proposals, financial evaluations, and other important documents that results on creating a contract that is digitally signed and sent to our clients. Plus, all documents are stored in our document management system, as you can see in the number 4. So we created more than 10 web services that communicate between the different systems, either to fetch information one way or the other, or to access documents from different applications. We're using dynamic Excel components with automate calculations. We're also now, as I mentioned before, we're also able to track our documents by eliminating information silos and having all the relevant documents in one place. We're also applied business rules, of course, for workflow automation, and we are using smart and real-time notifications and messages. So what are the results we're experiencing so far? Because at this point, we have not calculated our ROI. We are in that process. We will have that info in a couple of weeks, but we're seeing very important results so far. For instance, our sales and customer success managers are saving about 80% of the time as a result of automated contract and financial evaluations form generation. This is creating a huge impact in time, effort, and the spirit of our people. That's very important. Our controllers that pretty much are the logistic and financial departments, they are also saving 50% time of their in their execution due to structured data and real-time collaboration. Excuse me, a little water. Our sales rep are also experiencing benefits in about 30% of time and error deduction because of automated calculations with ready built-in formulas into the forms. And finally, but not least, our head of billing is also very happy because the execution is being improved in about 70% when it comes to time of the execution for faster process execution, and has also improved the time to issue an invoice with no errors, actually, and also that is improving the time to collect those invoices. So you can see from this very simple example how our company is leveraging from time reduction, error reduction, time execution, and also collaboration across the board. So thank you very much for joining this session today. I believe we have some time for Q&A. So back to Jennifer and Dimitra.
Thank you, Claudio, for joining us today and for sharing your case study with us. And thank you, Dimitra and George, also for opening the webinar today. As mentioned, we do have some time for a Q&A, so if you have any questions, please do include them in the Q&A box and we'll get to you as soon as possible. All right, so I've got a question here from Felipe. George, what types of business processes is the Commodore solution best suited for?
Well, that's a very good question because it's something that we have to explain to our customers. We find it, they find it difficult sometimes to understand how and in which processes they can use a platform like a low-code platform. So Commidore's approach is to provide different tools for different cases, for different processes. As a low-code platform, it can automate processes that are business agnostic. That is why we have seen results and cases in totally different sectors like telecommunications, like IT processes, or project management, or HR, or even financial services processes. In your business that contains multiple steps, tasks, or repetitive tasks, and which is now solved in other ways like exchanging of emails or Excel sheets or having some databases, access databases somewhere. All of these things can be modeled, they can be monitored, and they can be optimized with a local platform like Commodore. So the answer is that you can use it in any kind of business process that you have in your company.
All right, great. Why do you think Rpa alone is not giving a sustainable solution to process automation problems?
So, as we said, businesses, they want to achieve their digital transformation and automation. So with that perspective, they want to get there as fast as possible, trying to automate all their processes. But they forget in the meantime that the problem is not always that a manual task can be executed automatically by a bot using RPA. The basic problems we have identified is that their processes are, first of all, not documented at all, which means they have to transfer their business knowledge and map it in a process design, which will give them the ability to understand what's going wrong. Secondly, the processes contain manual tasks that cannot be automated. Such examples are approvals of documents or signatures, decisions that can be facilitated by machine learning or artificial intelligence, but still they have to be confirmed by a specific person. So an RPA tool can manage automation of repetitive tasks, whereas an enterprise low-code platform with RPA helps them understand their processes, helps them orchestrate, optimize them, because that is what gives value to the organization.
All right, great. What's the sustainability of low-code development, and how scalable is such a solution?
Another good question. It's something that many software companies have in their minds when they try traditional development to low-code. What we tell them is that when we refer to software project sustainability and scalability, related to how well you organize your code. This is regardless the technical language you are using. And that is why development methodologies, there is a variety of development frameworks in many different programming languages. This helps developers build sustainable and scalable code. So the question is, do low-code platforms embrace those methodologies? Do they offer similar tools that will help software developers solve these kind of issues? The answer is that, as in all markets, it depends on the platform. Yes, there are low-code platforms that have the appropriate design to encounter those issues. There are others that not. That is why it's critical before a business chooses a low-code platform to be sure that it can fit their exact needs.
Okay, that makes sense. What differentiates the Commodore solution from other low-code platforms?
So it is the whole approach that we have designed and we have made platform. First of all, it is the concept of combining low-code with workflow and process automation. We have seen that this increases the agility of the development team. It certainly makes design and development faster. Second, I could say that the orchestration functionalities, as we said, implementation is just one phase of development. We have the design, we have the testing, we have the deployment, which are very critical and shouldn't be forgotten. So changing from traditional development to low-code doesn't mean that we omit those phases. They are really important, especially for large projects. Then I would say that it's the clear separation of data and business logic, because another feature that characterizes Commodore, and this means that data can reside in any location, and as in Ofimundo's case study, for example, it can be combined with cloud data. Data can be combined with cloud data. And last, I would say it's the ability to embed your machine learning, artificial intelligence, or RPA bots in your own business process design. So the combination of all of those, I think it makes a unique solution.
If I could add something here, Commodore is a platform that provides a holistic approach, so placing Bpmn and low-code in the heart of the application of the platform and combining it with the advanced technologies that George already mentioned, we can go into building and executing more in-depth processes instead of simply staying on the surface of some kind of steps and processes running an organization. So we talk about the holistic approach in the business life.
Okay, great. We've got a question here from Winton. Why do you use so many conditional flows on your Bpmn diagrams instead of sequence flows? Do you have a facility model to model processes using only sequence flows and gateways to define conditional flow?
So from our experience, sequence flows can provide solutions for basic processes. But when we go to large organizations, we have seen that the complexity of their processes, which contain parallel tasks, decisions, sub-processes, they contain loops, automations, all this stuff, this makes it a really complex scenario. And this means also that in your sequence flow, you will have to add new components, and in the end, you will end up having a BPM diagram. So we start from BPM from scratch, because all cases, regardless the complexity. Now, for basic processes, users have the ability, of course, to use ready-made patterns so that it can help them solve basic problems and to design their BPM easily instead of doing it from scratch.
Great. All right. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to look to close the webinar. Before I do so, any final comments from the three of you?
Just thank you for joining today. We hope that the session was insightful, and yeah, thank you for joining.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you all for joining. Have a nice day, everyone. Thank you, Jennifer.
Great. Thank you to the speakers for joining us today and sharing their insights with us on the low-code platform. All right, the next session is the final session of this event. To close it up, we've got Globe Telecom joining us at 12 a.m. Eastern Time on how they've automated business processes with a no-code application. He'll be sharing his case study again here at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. That's in 15 minutes. I'll see you all in the next room for the final session. Goodbye for now.